Take a shower, wash off the day. Drink a glass of water. Make the room dark. Lie down and close your eyes. Notice the silence. Notice your heart. Still beating. Still fighting. You made it, after all. You made it, another day. And you can make it one more. You're doing just fine. Even when I try to stir myself up, I just get irritated because I can't make anything come out. And in the middle of the night, I lie here thinking about all this. If I don't get back on track somehow, I'm dead, that's the sense I get. There isn't a single strong emotion inside me. Life is 10% what you experience and 90% how you respond to it. Understanding the difference between healthy striving and perfectionism is critical to laying down the shield and picking up your life. Research shows that perfectionism hampers success. In fact, it's often the path to depression, anxiety, addiction, and life paralysis. Losing your life is not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing is to lose your reason for living. In addition to my other numerous acquaintances, I have one more intimate confidant. My depression is the most faithful mistress I have known. No wonder, then, that I return the love. You're like a gray sky. You're beautiful, even though you don't want to be. Depression is melancholy minus its charms. Don't worry if people think you're crazy. You are crazy. You have that kind of intoxicating insanity that lets other people dream outside of the lines and become who they're destined to be. I've got a bad case of the 3 a.m. guilts, you know, when you lie in bed awake and replay all those things you didn't do right. Because, as we all know, nothing solves insomnia like a nice warm glass of regret, depression, and self-loathing. I believe that words are strong, that they can overwhelm what we fear when fear seems more awful than life is good. It's my experience that people are a lot more sympathetic if they can see you hurting, and for the millionth time in my life I wish for measles or smallpox or some other easily understood disease just to make it easier on me and also on them. You're not a bad person for the ways you tried to kill your sadness. I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to start this day because then I'll just be expected to finish it. Having anxiety and depression is like being scared and tired at the same time. It's the fear of failure, but no urge to be productive. It's wanting friends, but hate socializing. It's wanting to be alone, but not wanting to be lonely. It's feeling everything at once then feeling paralyzingly numb. If you know someone who's depressed, please resolve never to ask them why. Depression isn't a straightforward response to a bad situation, depression just is, like the weather. Depression is feeling like you've lost something but having no clue when or where you last had it. Then one day you realize what you lost is yourself. People think depression is sadness. People think depression is crying. People think depression is dressing in black. But people are wrong. Depression is the constant feeling of being numb. Being numb to emotions, being numb to life. You wake up in the morning just to go to bed again. Every day is a second chance. I need one of those long hugs where you kinda forget whatever else is happening around you for a minute. It's not all bad. Heightened self-consciousness, apartness, an inability to join in, physical shame and self-loathing, they are not all bad. Those devils have been my angels. Without them I would never have disappeared into language, literature, the mind, laughter and all the mad intensities that made and unmade me. When you're depressed you don't control your thoughts control you. I wish people understood that. That is all I want in life, for this pain to seem purposeful. Depression on my left. Loneliness on my right. They don't need to show me their badges. I know these guys very well. Maybe we all have darkness inside of us and some of us are better at dealing with it than others. Sometimes I just think depression's one way of coping with the world. Like, some people get drunk, some people do drugs, some people get depressed. Because there's so much stuff out there that you have to do something to deal with it. Listen to the people who love you. Believe that they are worth living for even when you don't believe it. Seek out the memories depression takes away and project them into the future. Be brave, be strong, take your pills. Exercise because it's good for you even if every step weighs 1,000 pounds. Eat when food itself disgusts you. Reason with yourself when you have lost your reason. When people don't know exactly what depression is, they can be judgmental. I couldn't be with people and I didn't want to be alone. Suddenly my perspective whooshed and I was far out in space, watching the world. I could see millions and millions of people, all slotted into their lives. Then I could see me. I'd lost my place in the universe. It had closed up and there was nowhere for me to be. I was more lost than I had known it was possible for any human being to be. I didn't want my picture taken because I was going to cry. I didn't know why I was going to cry, but I knew that if anybody spoke to me or looked at me too closely, the tears would fly out of my eyes and the sobs would fly out of my throat and I'd cry for a week. I could feel the tears brimming and sloshing in me like water in a glass that is unsteady and too full. Every man has his secret sorrows which the world knows not, and oftentimes we call a man cold when he is only sad. There are wounds that never show on the body that are deeper and more hurtful than anything that bleeds. Mental illness is so much more complicated than any pill that any mortal could invent. Depression, suffering and anger are all part of being human. Depression is being colorblind and constantly told how colorful the world is. It is very hard to explain to people who have never known serious depression or anxiety the sheer continuous intensity of it. There is no off switch. There is no point treating a depressed person as though she were just feeling sad, saying, "There now, hang on, you'll get over it." Sadness is more or less like a head cold. With patience, it passes. Depression is like cancer. I am bent, but not broken. I am scarred, but not disfigured. I am sad, but not hopeless. I am tired, but not powerless. I am angry, but not bitter. I am depressed, but not giving up. I'll never forget how the depression and loneliness felt good and bad at the same time. Still does. I have depression. But I prefer to say, I battle depression instead of I suffer with it. Because depression hits, but I hit back. Battle on. Depression, for me, has been a couple of different things, but the first time I felt it, I felt helpless, hopeless, and things I had never felt before. I lost myself and my will to live. A big part of depression is feeling really lonely, even if you're in a room full of 1,000,000 people. I go through a lot of depression, and I know other people do, too, but I have an outlet that so many people don't. If you have that inside of you and can't get it out, what do you do? People who have never dealt with depression think it's just being sad or being in a bad mood. That's not what depression is for me. It's falling into a state of grayness and numbness. Try to understand the blackness, lethargy, hopelessness, and loneliness they're going through. Be there for them when they come through the other side. It's hard to be a friend to someone who's depressed, but it is one of the kindest, noblest, and best things you will ever do. You say you're depressed, all I see is resilience. You are allowed to feel messed up and inside out. It doesn't mean you're defective, it just means you're human. I found that with depression, one of the most important things you could realize is that you're not alone.